at Jesus feeding the 5,000. And we noticed that this is an old story. They had this story in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And John's writing to a whole different group for a whole different reason. And so, to tell an old story means that he's going to do something different with it. And in John chapter 6, we had Jesus feeding the 5,000 and testing his disciples, saying, where are you going to buy food for all these people? That's the first time we knew that there was going to be a little test. Right? And they did this little math and said, well, 8 months' wages isn't going to pay for one bite for everybody. And Jesus does an incredible miracle. He feeds all of them until they're content, and they collect 12 baskets. Somebody asked me after the sermon 2 weeks ago, what's the basket thing? You know, what do they just like have baskets with them for their dirty clothes? No. They're not hampers. When your Jewish people would travel, especially in the Gentile world in this area, they would bring these little things look like little fishing creel things to bring their own food because they had to eat kosher food. And if you bought something in a Gentile market, it would be not kosher, right? So each of the disciples had these little baskets with them, and afterwards they gathered up and they had their baskets were all full. Bread. Bread. If you look on the front of your order of worship today, there's a picture of some bread. This whole chapter is about bread. Okay? John brings up the story about what Jesus is doing with bread. He feeds this whole crowd. Afterwards it says they come to make him king by force, and we talked about what that meant. How you can't actually make somebody king by force. In that case, you'll be king. Okay, you're not really in charge. So what it means to have somebody as king. After that, there's another miracle. And we're just going to look at it briefly because it's in your text. It says here on verse 16, when evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them. When a strong wind was blowing and the waters grew rough, when they had rowed 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on the water, and they were terrified. But he said to them, "It is I, don't be afraid." Then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were headed. Okay. That's a cool miracle too, right? The walking on the water. Do you get the feeling John's making a big deal out of that? No. Where's the dialogue with Peter? Where's Peter getting out? It's sinking. It just, like John was going, okay, I just want to put this in reference. This is when this stuff happened. What had happened is, Jesus had dismissed the crowd, but first he sent his disciples away. He sent the apostles away in a boat. And he told them, I'm going to catch up with you later. And he's on his way back to Capernaum. And then he finds out there's a storm. And they're rowing hard, they're not getting anywhere. So he walks out to them. Now that had to be something very startling to him. But that's not what John's talking. I mean, that's not really a big deal for John, right? He's going someplace else with these stories. It says, verse 22, the next day the crowd that had stayed on the opposite side of the lake realized that only one boat had been there, and that Jesus had not entered it with his disciples, but they had gone away alone. Then some boats from Tiberias landed near the place where the people had eaten the bread after the Lord had given thanks. Once the crowd realized that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they got into the boats and went to Capernaum in search for Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the lake, they asked him, "Rabbi, when did you get here?" That's an important question, right? I just got back from vacation. People say, "Oh, that's great. When did you get back?" About 8:30, 9 o'clock last night. Was that what they were after? Jesus, when did you get here? No, you see, they knew he had to walk all the way around the shore because he wasn't in the boat, right? They took the direct route with the boat. Jesus cuts to the quick in all this. He says in verse 26, Jesus answered, 10:30. No, I'm sorry. doesn't really answer the question, does he? Jesus answered, I tell you the truth. You're looking for me, not because you saw miraculous signs, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. On him God the Father has placed the seal of approval. Okay. He answered them in a different question. He was in a whole different page, okay? Didn't want to talk about what time he got there. Didn't even want to deal with that. He says, let me just cut to the quick. You guys ate really well yesterday. And that's why you're looking for me. Is it true? Jesus thought it was true. He says, I tell you the truth. This is it. You guys had a free lunch. And now you want another one. That's why you're looking for me. It wasn't even because of the miracles. What is on your mind is bread. Bread. Must have been really good bread. Right? Yeah, so, it's like maybe Panera. Yeah. Or what are the bagels? Einstein bagels. Maybe it was Einstein bagels. It must have been really good, but they came looking for me because they wanted more bread. Okay. All right. And Jesus knew that. Jesus told them that's what's going on. He says, then they asked him, what must we do to do the work of God? All right. He told them, don't work for food that spoils. Work for food that doesn't spoil. And they said, okay, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? Jesus answered, the work of God is to believe in the one whom he sent. So they asked him, okay. What miraculous sign then will you give that we may see it and believe you? Wait, we've got an idea. What will you do? Our forefathers ate manna in the desert. As is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. There's a nice suggestion. Okay, so the work is to believe in you. What are you going to do to help us believe in you? How about more bread? That's what's going on here, folks. Remember the manna in the wilderness? Bread. What do these people have on their mind? Food. Bread. It's getting to be 11:10. What do you guys have on your mind right now? Anybody miss breakfast? We had some great pizza breakfast. Well, anyway, I won't tell you. In case you missed some, I don't want you to miss it. Okay. Bread. Bread. We have a suggestion. Why don't you give us some bread? Okay. He says, Jesus said to them, I tell you the truth. It is not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Sir, they said, from now on, give us this bread. Okay, we're with you. We'll take that bread. And we'll have fries and a Coke with it too, if that's cool. Jesus said, true bread, bread that comes from heaven, is me. It's me. Did they hear that part? No, what they heard is bread. And they said, we'll take it. We'll take it. We'll take it to go. Then Jesus declared, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty. But as I told you, you have seen me and still not believe. All the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never drive away. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my will, but to do the will of the one who sent me. And this is the will of the one of him who sent me, that I should lose none of those who he has given to me, but raise them up on the last day. For my Father's will that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life, raise them up on the last day. Jesus has just changed the whole scenario about bread, hasn't he?